A new year has passed. Everyone's got their own New Year's resolutions, and it is easy to see why, because we have such a short amount of time in the year, and it is filled with things that we want to do and achieve, and not everything is achievable within the space of 24 hours a day. Sometimes we wish we had more hours in the day. But let's not dwell on that. I think it's important to think about the things that we can do right now. And for the sake of cutting this intro short, I'm going to say we're going to do some stuff this year, and it's going to be epic. And here is a plan of action, 12 months. What can we do right now to achieve these things? Not tomorrow, not the day after, but today. So me and Jake have set out for the next 12 months. Well, we've already got 5 days deep into January, but yeah, 12 months minus those 5 days. What can we do? What can we achieve if we really set our minds to it? And most importantly, keep each other accountable. So I thought we'd just go right into it and say what we want to do, and then we can discuss those points. But I think since you're my guest on this, Jake, I know we're doing this together, but I thought I'd let you go first on maybe what's the general feeling you have for this year, how you want to grow as a person, like what do you see yourself doing and becoming, and what are those sort of goals within that realm, I suppose.
Yeah. First of all, brilliant and natural host you are. Born for the camera. Anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of stuff I want to do, and if I'm being like really honest, I even said to you that I don't know about doing this whole thing as an accountability thing, just because there's so many other things I want to do that if I'm not giving something 100%, then I don't want to commit to it. But this is about being accountable, and I think in the long run this will actually serve both of us best, at very least as a little experiment to see how we did or if we kept up. But yeah, there's a few things I want to achieve this year, and I'm not going to call them resolutions because I don't really like the idea of that, because you know how that goes. It goes for 5 minutes and then just drops off by 2 weeks in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that first because I've got a little list here. So something I want to build again or rebuild is consistency. Just overall, build some new good habits to replace the old ones. Make things as frictionless as possible, so that there's just less reasons for me to not do something, and more reason to stick with the things I really want to do long term, rather than maybe these short little bits of things that I want to do like right now, because we can all get like hyper fixated on one thing, and that's just like consumes your thought for a while.
Yeah, it's very easy to get lost in it, isn't it?
For sure. And so I think building consistency is one. And that would include having a good sleep schedule and wake schedule, a good overall diet, which is another point of, you know, what people do in New Year's resolutions is it's like, I'm going to go on a diet. I'm like, you don't go on a diet, you change your lifestyle. That's what it should be. Yeah. And that's what I want to go for. And actually, you've been instrumental in me reframing some of those things about how I tackle things. And it's not just this big, oh, you can't eat anything, you have to exercise all day, every day. It's like, no, just...
It is all about mindset at the end of the day.
For sure.
And the biggest problem I find within people is that they think they have to make like a monumental, just completely rewrite everything in their lives and change everything, when that's simply not true. You have some systems in place now that are maybe not the most optimal or the best they could be in terms of helping you out. And if you just work at them a little bit at a time, then they can become a really great foundation for the rest of your life. And for example, with food, you know the foods that you enjoy eating, and some people maybe stress eat or do things like that, and that causes them to gain a little bit more weight than they would like. Or some people will go the opposite direction and they don't eat enough because the thought of making food and staying on top of things, on top of everything else happening in life, might stress them out too much. But the important thing is that you have something in place, like you know what you like, and you can just expand on that and be like, okay, if I know that I like this, I can keep making this, and I just keep this in a sort of general plan. So you don't need to completely erase everything you've done so far and then just completely start again. I think that's where people tend to go wrong. Same with going to the gym. You can start doing a workout at home. If you don't like doing that, then you can find any kind of other system that's suitable to you. And the more homely, the more safe, the more comforting you can make a place or an environment or anything to start building your habit, the more successful you're going to be in building that habit.
But I would say you also need a certain level of uncomfortability, because if you get comfortable, then that change isn't really going to manifest. Which is why doing something, I don't know, for example, cold showers, you appreciate that it's difficult, but that it's good for you, and it has to be that way for it to change how you think, feel, develop, whatever.
Yeah.
And could also be done an example with food, and you don't have to eat all the super rich stuff all the time, all the sugary stuff. Like if it's all the time, then it's not a treat, you know.
Yeah. But you also, on the opposite side, can't demonize it. You can't say, I need to completely get rid of this, completely exclude this, because that's also how people fail. Is they're like, oh, I'm craving this so much, and then they're not eating it, and then all of a sudden just everything, the lid comes off, and you just want to binge eat everything.
For sure. And I also think another good one for me in general and as a life skill is taking those good habits and taking them with me wherever I go. Because sometimes it's easy to go on holiday and go, oh, I'm on holiday, so I'm not gonna bother with that, or you just fall out of this structure or routine or whatever it is you have just by being in a different environment where suddenly you can relax, and then that little treat turns into a couple of treats that day, and then a couple of treats every day, and then you're on holiday for 10 days, and you come back and you're like, Jesus, I've just completely destroyed my own thing. Which is, and I always thought, people who go running on Christmas Day are mad. They do it every day. Yeah, it's like, have yourself a day off. But they've clearly got their principles in order, and they're more disciplined than me.
They have a system in place, and maybe this is almost too much for me personally, because I think it's nice to reward yourself and have off days and things like that. Not the same way as having cheat meals. I don't agree with the idea of like cheat meals, but in terms of the running example, I suppose they have those systems in place, maybe because they're afraid that if they don't do it for a day, then they'll revert back to the old ways. I don't know. Or maybe they just enjoy it so much that they just say, "Well, I need to do this every day because this gives me life." So it could be anything really, but as long as it works for them, that's the most important thing.
Right, for sure. And what about you? What's something at the top of your list or the front of your mind to achieve?
Yeah. So a lot of things, if you want to call it, in my life are a little bit chaotic at the moment. So whether that's to do with files or things like that, or any type of organizational system has kind of been thrown out of the window last year. And I think that I need to rebuild some things in my life. And one of the things that has been suggested to me, I recently had a conversation with someone that I just met. He recommended something called second brain to me.
Mm-hmm.
And in regards to organization, for example, on your phone or on your computer, you have a list of everything. It's very concise, folders in the right place, everything in the right place. So all the chaos that's happening in your mind is just outside. And you're constantly, whenever you have a new idea or something, for me, the easiest thing is to open up my phone, and then once I'm done implementing the system, I will have a place for random 3 a.m. music notes, or I don't know, whatever comes to my mind, or some philosophical thing that I had going on, or whatever. It will be there in a folder, and I can just open the folder, open the notes, scribble my notes down, and then I don't have to worry about them anymore. They're on my phone, and they'll probably be on a cloud somewhere or something, and then I can just get back to them whenever I need to. But the most important thing is that whatever's on my brain is being released, constantly being released, and not being stuck in there. So it's a decluttering of the brain, essentially.
Yeah.
And I think that's something I need to work on a lot this year.
There's a saying, stay in your head and you're dead.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. That's why generally, if we can, it doesn't have to be consistently, but you feel better for journaling a little something. Like if there's something on your mind, and then suddenly, like you're saying, it's not just in your mind, it's on paper, you can lay it out, you can edit it and see it for what it is, rather than this overthinking, out of control thought. And it kind of makes it a little less scary and daunting as well. And also that you've just not got to remember so much stuff, because, you're going to deplete your energy pretty quickly when you're juggling however many things.
Yeah, you've already got so many tasks to do throughout the day, whether it's for tasks that you've set yourself or that someone else has set for you. So you're going to be thinking about those. And then you imagine all the, how we were talking, was it with you or I don't know, with someone else, we were talking, and I think the human brain has about
5 petabytes.
Yeah, that was with
space.
you, wasn't it? 5 petabytes. Imagine all that space, or most of that space, is being used up by clutter. So you're walking into a library essentially, but nothing is organized. There's no system in place. There's cobwebs everywhere, and just it's dirt. Like there's dust, and it's
and several dark rooms you don't want to visit.
Yeah, exactly. The forbidden rooms, like in Harry Potter.
In Hogwarts Legacy, yeah, exactly. The forbidden rooms.
Yeah.
Funny, it looks so magical inside.
Yeah. Well, you need to, spend the time to light those rooms up and dust the cobwebs, if you will.
Exactly. But if we built ourselves rooms of requirement, haha.
Yes, I like it. I like where you're going with this.
But room of requirement's actually not a bad idea, because that's getting into Mind Palace territory, where things are really accurately stored and filed, and you can recall things, and actually your memory can improve a lot if you practice some of those techniques. And like you say, if you've got on your phone just a file or an order system where you can retrieve things, that would also be helpful thinking wise. And I definitely do have that to a degree, especially when it comes to stuff like emotions and handling that sort of stuff. Because, emotions aren't really real. You feel or experience them, but you're not that thing,
No, yeah.
And so, I've got a little, I did write years ago in a little journal, a diary entry, and I wrote emotions, how they affect me and what helps me best to handle them. And I wrote stuff down like anxiety, whatever, feeling sad. And then I also wrote down at a certain point happy and what to do when I'm feeling happy. And sometimes you have to make a note of saying that I am happy and da 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 and whatever, because sometimes you forget and it's easier for the more gloomy stuff to outweigh the good stuff, and it's easier to focus on. But I think noting when you're happy and also noting when you have a laugh.
There's actually Alvaro. He does this thing where he, I don't know if he still does it nowadays. I'm sure he'll be fine with me sharing this as well. Is he's got a notes section with all of the happy moments that he's lived. At least, I guess not everything from the start, but it's quite an extensive list. And he can just scroll through it and like all the moments where he's experienced genuine joy. And I like it, and I started doing it too. I haven't done it in a while, but I think it's
a wonderful idea.
It's a good idea, that, and because I look back at it, even all the stuff that I did write down from the moment he suggested it to me, which was about 2 or 3 years ago now, and I there are some things in there, quite a lot of things actually, which I just don't think about every day. I've forgotten, because why would you get reminded of those things if they're not at the forefront of your mind?
Right. And do you know, actually, there's a couple of times every now and again you get like a Facebook, oh, this was you 13 years ago doing whatever.
Yeah.
And, actually, a quick little tangent on that just made me think. I got one of those things up the other day, and it was from, I don't know, 2011 or something like that.
Yeah.
And the post I'd made, I guess, was either to get people or to get my other self, but I'd written the game. And I was like, oh, you bastard. You young bastard. You've got yourself in the future.
Yeah. Is that what you do?
Yeah, apparently. Just trip myself up
you
down the line.
Little shit.
Yeah, exactly. No, that just tickled me. But so, like I was saying, you sometimes get them posts or whatever, and you go, oh, I completely forgot that happened. And to just have like those little, I guess, memoirs of happy moments, that's such a nice collection of words and experiences for sure.
Yeah, and nostalgia, I think, is an emotion that a lot of people tend to feel a little bit negative about. Like, where has my life gone? What am I doing now?
Christmas isn't what it used to be.
Yeah.
That's a big one. And I'm like, yeah, because first of all, you're not kids anymore, and actually, I usually hear it from like parents and grandparents more than kids, I would say, because the kids are still kids, and the parents aren't the kids anymore, and so Christmas isn't what it used to be. I don't know if that's the case. I think it's what you make it, right?
Yeah,
surely
it's what you make of it. I was going to say, and you still have that chance of exploring your inner child, of expressing yourself in that way. And in the past couple of years, I would say that I've not really done that. I've kind of taken Christmas for granted and been like, there's some issues around Christmas usually that arise, so I don't really want to deal with it. I don't want to make myself feel happy around that time. I'd rather just feel neutral or whatever.
Miserable.
Scrooge, like humbug. But this Christmas, I feel like I did it a bit differently, and it has changed my perspective of it, just in terms of gift giving and being around the people I love.
What did you do different that made it, that bit more enjoyable?
Well, first of all, I put more effort into gift giving in general, and I discovered that I quite enjoy it actually. And it's a weird thing, because you would have thought that giving and receiving gifts in general is, quite a joyful experience, but I really put a lot of thought and effort into it this year. Towards my immediate family especially, and I thought that it went down really well. And I saw that other people put a similar amount of effort into it too, and it just felt really nice. I think that's the main takeaway of it, really.
Yeah, no, that is nice. I was similar to you actually. I don't know why, I was a little more open-minded this year. Normally around birthdays and Christmas, I get a bit depressed feeling.
Mm.
I think I don't really like the light being on me in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of the problem I have with it, with those kind of celebrations, it feels like obligatory gift-giving season.
Yeah, like you have to do this
For
and
the sake of tradition. And you're like, okay,
yeah,
well, first of all, we're all grown up. No one really wants anything. No one really needs anything because they get their own stuff throughout the year. And then you have to, there's the stress of thinking up something you want, thinking up what someone else would want, and also hoping that it's received in the way, you intend for it to be. But I think I just let go a little bit, and that is the key to a lot of things. Is just let go.
that can carry on into other aspects of your life.
Absolutely. I mean, it's probably one of the keys to life is to let go, because the more you try and hold on, you just stress yourself out, basically.
But I noticed this with letter writing as well, or just writing. If say you're writing something important, it doesn't have to be a letter necessarily, but I'm using the letter as an example. Is that when we're writing things down, we're judging them as we're writing them. So something I try and do more and more is just let myself write down whatever it is I'm feeling at that moment, or when I'm thinking about this person, and I'm not writing it down straight away on the card. I'm writing it down on my phone or on another piece of paper or whatever I have handy, and then I'll do a little quick edit in case something doesn't make sense grammatically or whatever. But that is the raw emotion, the raw current feeling I have in that moment in time. And I think that's the beauty of letters as well, is that you capture a moment in time, and then when you later look back at the letter, usually the one that someone's given to you, you can see the sort of state of mind they were in at that moment, and it makes you appreciate them at that time a bit more.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, would you like to hear an excerpt from the card I received from Alex?
Yeah, what a great transition. Go on.
Is it up there? Oh, it might. I think
he's already thrown it away.
Yeah, it's in the fucking shredder, mate. No, it's been done up by the sworn enemy of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Shredder.
Oh dear.
The card is, I think, next door, because this is probably a good detail to look back on, because I'll likely have forgotten that it happened. But my place just flooded, and I got everything back in here now, so that's good. And so all of my stuff was everywhere, and so things like cards and that I wanted to keep flat and safe and whatever, so they didn't get damaged. But let's say Alex wrote some lovely words, and there was no swearing or rude remarks or anything untoward. Let's say
it was straight from the heart, straight from the heart.
Yeah, straight through the bloody heart.
Oh dear.
Anyway,
I'm gonna move on to another point.
Oh, go
on. If you don't mind.
Treat yourself. Go on. It's the new year.
So
I don't think you mentioned it was 2025, by the way. So we're going to look back and go.
What year is this? Yeah, you can tell that I'm doing this on the fly. But what's a good point that I wanted to do? I guess there are some things that I've written down that in the moment that I wrote them down, I felt like they were a good idea, but then I'm kind of battling back and forth between, is this going to be counterproductive maybe? Am I focusing on the wrong things? But at the same time, also, I should just write everything down that I want to do. And I know that I'm not going to be able to achieve everything on that list because it's quite an extensive list. But I can organize them in a sort of priority hierarchy type thing and see what is the most important one. And then if there's something at the bottom of the list, maybe I can do it this year, or maybe I can save it for next year. But anyways, so something that I've been dealing with is actually my health. And I think that's something I really want to get on top this year. So I've got some shoulder issues, and then I've got some stuff on my back that I need looked at. And it's something that isn't maybe the biggest issue, but it is something that is always on the back of my mind. So if we're going back to the sort of clutter in the mind type thing, then I think health issues is something that's sort of lingering. It's that little spider that is creating the cobwebs, basically. Mm. But anyways, the point is it's at the back of my mind all the time, and it's something I need to just have looked at, get sorted out, even if it is a bit of a painful process to deal with all the doctors and blah blah blah, back and forth. And but anyways, I'll just sort it out, and then it will hopefully resolve itself and be one less problem to deal with.
I think an interesting thought off of, well, you judge if it's interesting. A thought I had off of that is just to constantly really ask yourself when it comes to things like that are a bit of a pain, what's the alternative? So the alternative to me doing nothing about it is that things stay the same or get worse. And same with anything. The alternative to me not getting out of bed on time means I don't get to work on time, means I don't get paid, means I lose whatever. Just things like that. And so is it worth it? And you can use it the other way around. You're at a job you don't like. What's the alternative? Okay, the alternative is either look for another job, or maybe you stay where you are, and the alternative could have been that things were better. And we don't live in regret, I suppose.
No, you don't know unless you take that risk.
Yeah.
And I suppose now is the best time to take that risk. Usually.
Now is the only time, man. Now is all there ever is.
Yeah.
I got a tattoo of that, as you know. Insert tattoo picture.
Yeah.
Ding. Have fun editing that. I think that's like the best thing you can really do. When you take care of yourself, then you can take care of others properly as well. And when we take care of others properly, that is just the best we can do for each other, like on the planet. Something I want to do is travel with friends. I think that is... I've travelled a fair bit solo now, and to travel with namely like a group of friends, like me and Alex and a few others. Like there's something I want to organise, and especially as a lot of my friends are from other countries, and to get us all to like meet in one place, that would be really nice to travel as a group. And also just have a time in my life where all of my best pals at the time were in the same place, and just make some memories of that. So that's something I'd really love to do.
I feel like we don't do enough of that these days as adults. It's almost like a play date, isn't it? That we used to do as kids, and you're like, oh, I get to see this friend today, and we get to spend the day together. And
that's the thing, you used to, like you say, go out and play with your friends, but now it's, do you want to hang out? It's like, no, I don't want to hang out. I want to play. I want to have that childlike innocence, play games, go on a bike ride, do something adventurous, scrape my knee, whatever.
Be silly, yeah.
All of that. And as a group, that just seems to fall by the wayside because people get into couples, or thruples or anything you bloody like, and just that group friendship seems to just go to nothing until it's one of your mate's funerals, and you go, fucking hell, I ain't seen whoever in 40 years.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
How did that happen?
And the other thing is, you often get when people get married, that's the last time they see the majority of the guests that attend. And so, one for the record, I guess, I'm not really into the whole idea of marriage. It doesn't really, it doesn't float the boat for me, so to speak, because first of all, it hasn't really been proven it can work to me, in my experience. And also that I just don't like the idea of settling down. To settle feels like, okay, we've had our fun, and now we grow up and be boring, and we put away and put aside childish things. But what? And then people are like, oh, and they live in their stories then of the good old days. I'm like, this is the good old days. You are in them now, and you will be in them from the moment you are born until you die, if you choose it.
But I think that a marriage can be like that if you pick the right partner.
If you're with the right person. It was more to the point where I don't like the thing of settling. I always want to explore. That's my personality, though. I like learning new things. That is.
I'm the same with
what makes you
you
feel
in that
alive.
aspect. I like experiencing different cultures and different opinions and just parts of life that can help me. Not it's not necessarily all to help me. It's just to experience, to live, to be alive, and to feel alive. It doesn't all have to serve me. It all can just, be, if you want.
Sure, and it's better if you share it as well. Good times and bad, because if it's bad, then at least you can share the weight of the situation out. You ever tried moving a sofa by yourself? It's pretty damn difficult, but if you have someone else on the other end, or 2 or 3 people, then it's a breeze. And likewise, if you're having a good time, then it does the same, just gets even better because it's a shared experience.
Exactly. So I wanted to also talk about something that I've been kind of not avoiding, but I've been. It's something that kind of needs a band-aid ripping off, and that's moving into my own place, and that's one of the biggest things that I want to achieve this year, because I was living in London, and then I moved into my parents' place last year. And I was looking at some places, but it wasn't ever really the right time yet. But now I feel like slowly but surely it is getting there. Not that there will ever be a right time or a perfect time, because it's always going to be stressful and scary, and just like I've never lived completely by myself ever before. I've always lived with someone, whether a stranger or a friend or my family. And that is something that I'm going to have to dive into and see how I do. But yeah, that is, I would say, one of my biggest goals that I want to achieve this year. And I think it's more than possible. And it would make me feel like my life is a little bit more on track again.
Cool. Other than, money,
Yeah.
do you think there's anything else holding you back from going for that?
A little bit fear, I think, because, like I said, I've never lived by myself, and I don't know what that's like. I won't know until I do it, but it's something that I think I have to do to grow as a person. But other than that, no, I'm ready. I wanna do it. I wanna move out. I wanna get my own place, and just keep working on the other aspects of my life, but in the comfort of my own home, where I can dictate the rules and just be my own person fully.
I think you would be perfectly fine. And some of our fears come from that we might actually like it, or it might be good for us. And the self-sabotage element in us goes, maybe we don't deserve it that good, but you know, in all honesty, you really do. And I have every faith that you would be absolutely fine, and that will just come along, and it will be water off a duck's back. And knowing the kind of person you are, at least at present, I think you have all the drive and intention for building structure that you would thrive in an environment like that. I think you'd be a well-oiled machine, and yeah, I'm very excited to see.
Appreciate that.
To receive in the housewarming letter. You better invite me.
Oh, you'll be the first to be invited. I might only have one bed though, so we might have to share it. So.
Stop it.
Oh dear. Right. What we like? Do you wanna? Share?
Yeah. Off of that. It's because I'm in the process of moving my stuff back into my recently waterlogged house. I want to recreate and maintain a tidy workspace.
Mm-hmm.
Just so for, music and film and editing and all of that, just everything is where I need it to be, with as least friction as and reason for me not to do a thing. So that's why I have guitars and such ready to go.
Yeah.
Speakers are on stands. Everything's connected. The lights are ready. The only thing is this space is a bit small. So it would be great if I could work towards having a studio at some point. I don't think that'll happen this year.
Yeah, that's one of my hopes as well. My dreams for when I move into my own place is I have a studio just basically ready to record. But
yeah,
I don't know how I'm going to get a drum kit in there yet. And
we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
tiny details. But yeah, having a space that's set up to be creative, with least excuse making things in the way. And that can also come down to minimizing some physical things, and just not having so much stuff, because yes, it is good to have things, but sometimes when you limit yourself, you become more creative. So yeah, any thoughts on that for you?
That reminds me of, do you know what Jacob Collier's room looks like? That's the kind of room that I imagine, where he's got his computer set up and he's got mics all over the room on different instruments and wherever, like room mic or whatever.
An incredible amount of phase issues when he runs them all at the same time.
Sure.
No. Don't run them all at the same time, please.
But that's kind of how I imagine it. He's just going back and forth and recording, and everything's live and frictionless, as he said. And to me, that would be the perfect example of letting your creativity just flow. Because there's no interruptions, there's no technical issues of, oh my God, I have to deal with this, and then you forget where you're at, and just, yeah.
Sure. Off of that, you just made me think, were you talking about like interruptions, even though I've interrupted you, funnily enough, but things that just break your focus. I think maybe for myself to be a little more disciplined, maybe just turn my phone off while I'm editing something. I'll get it done so much quicker. Just getting all my attention, and just
that is a problem we all have, by the way. Everyone has this
problem. For sure. And just myself, to minimize some of that, and but it's so addictive, obviously, and it's what we've grown up with now. The next generation down are even more addicted than us. But we're dependent on it, and even there's, everything is a lot down to technology these days. And maybe another thing I'll schedule in, this is just what I've thought of, is to schedule some more personal days to just be in nature or something like that. I was going to
say, when was the last time you went out and you left your phone at home? Do you remember?
Right.
Because I I always take my phone with me, and I think it's for good reason. Like, oh, what if something were to happen, blah blah whatever. But what did we do before we had phones? You know, people just didn't have phones with them, so they were mostly fine, I think.
Mm. Mm. Unless you never heard from them. Sorry, unless you never heard from them. I had a bit of a stutter there. I have a little bit of a stutter, I've noticed.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never noticed that.
Not even just a stutter, but like a hesitation. It's like I say the start of a word. I did that on purpose. But something like that.
Well, I can assure you that no one else in the world has paid attention to that other than you.
Yeah, probably not. But I notice it in myself. But I just let it go because I'm like, that is the way I speak. If anyone ever did an impression of me, I'm sure that would be in there.
I'll see what I can do.
No, please don't.
I can't.
You can't. Did I finish interrupting what you were saying? Yeah, just to spend some time in nature, maybe spend some more time in Scotland, in the Highlands, just reset. It doesn't matter if you've got your phone with you or not because you ain't got any damn reception. So
you got no choice.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing, I think, is that if you have no choice, then you're going to do it. But
for sure.
Because we're so connected and we've got
you're always
5G
gettable.
Towers every day and everywhere, not every day. Yeah, you're always reachable, and you always have that not voice, but I guess that sort of thing inside you saying, "Pick it up, do it, pick it up now."
For sure, and I have like a compulsion to just reply to everyone and everything because I want to respect people's time, and I hope they would respond to me in a timely manner because that's what's important to me. And yeah, this actually is going to lead on to my next point: is to edit relationships, all of them, friendships, family relationships, whatever. Edit relationships honestly and timely.
Okay. What does that mean?
That means that if someone isn't meeting me halfway in a relationship, in a way that I need for that relationship to be a healthy one, then I will release it from what I count as a close friendship or relationship, and not really put all the effort into something that someone isn't also putting the effort into. Otherwise, you just spin your wheels a bit, and people are sometimes there for only a season, and that's it. And it can...
I like that. Yeah. That's
yeah, and I think same as if we're talking like partner relationships, if you come to the end of a relationship, a lot of people would see it as a failed relationship, which I don't think is the case. It could be a very successful relationship that only happened to last so long. And you can still thank the other person for their time and whatever, and just be grateful that you had them in your life, and whether it's good or bad or whatever, everyone is a teacher, I would say.
And I think viewing it as a failed relationship is only your perspective, is the way that you view it. So even though some things can feel like a failure, at the end of the day, you probably still learn a lesson, or hopefully at least you learn a lesson out of anything, whether
Absolutely.
It's a small lesson or quite a big lesson. As long as you learn something about yourself and in terms of how you want others to treat you, and how you want to treat others, then I think that's a win no matter what happens, even if it is horrible and feels horrible.
Yeah, but it's the necessary evil, and this comes back to what's the alternative. So the alternative to staying somewhere with someone, be it a partner or a family member or a friend, or a colleague or a workplace, the alternative is, things are going to stay the same and you may still be unhappy or whatever. or you could risk something and see what happens.
There's
And I
actually a guy. Sorry for interrupting. There's actually a guy that I follow on Instagram called John Deloney. I think it's Deloney or something like that. And he is a good life coach, and he writes down some notes. And one of them is, if you're having a conversation with someone, this is just not exactly the quote, but something similar. If you're having a conversation with someone and you feel like you want to say something, but you feel like it's going to mess everything up, then you best believe that there already is a problem, and you need to just say what you have to say, because that problem, or that, for me, it manifests as like a knot in my stomach, and it means I can't sleep, I can't eat or do anything. So I just have to say what I have to say, and then that knot just disappears, and I feel like a newborn, basically. Genuinely, I feel so nice after saying what I've. Even in the moment, I didn't want to. Even if in the moment I didn't want to say it, and just keep it to myself, because I felt like a horrible person for saying something like that.
You got to speak your truth, though, right?
Yeah, you got to say it.
And most of the time, if it comes from a place of love, with good intentions, regardless of how it's received and interpreted, you've done right by yourself, and if you do right by yourself, then you do right by other people, regardless of outcome. And also being detached from the result of something, that's a big skill to learn, is that I'm going to risk a thing and I don't know how it will go. I can hope for the best, but hope is a little destructive. I can worry about the thing that may or may not happen, which is also completely pointless and very tempting to do. But just letting go and doing something that's aligned with your values and that you would respect yourself for doing. And maybe we get scared to say whatever, like you say, because it might push things too far, or what if so and so thinks that whatever. Then okay, well, that was clearly the necessary nail in the coffin to let you know to stop wasting time on a place you have to walk on eggshells.
Yeah.
That's not a comfortable place to be. Maybe that's just not your person. Maybe you've grown together and you've evolved differently.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it is. It's the persona that you've built in your head for this other person, and maybe they're not matching this persona. So you've got all these worries in your head, and you're like, they're not being the person that I need them to be. And this can go too far as well, in terms of you creating like a fantasy world, like a fantasy persona, and then you're just projecting your worries onto them, or your insecurities, basically. But on the more safe and regulated side, if they're not meeting your needs and you're just kind of floating about in the universe thinking, how is this person really serving me? Is this a transactional relationship, or is this a genuine, authentic relationship?
Yeah. And just off of that, not even how is this person serving me? I'm no longer able to serve them. And I would think of it like that, because I would never want to think in, I can get this from whatever given relationship. I'm like, what can I give? If what I can give is not valued by that person anymore, then it's time for a rethink. And that's why I think, and I already do this with friendships, relationships, whatever it is to speak up, address the thing.
And I think you're quite good at that. In my years of knowing you, I feel like you're one of the best people at doing that, and I look up to you in that aspect. I feel like I've become a lot better in recent times in that aspect.
Oh, dude, you've made some ballsy moves recently, I must say, and you should just give yourself a massive pat on the back, like bruise yourself. No, but it's kind of liberating because you also think, oh, I've actually got a spine,
Yeah.
and I wasn't sure about it, but guess what? I'm actually alive, and I've got thoughts, and I'm going to tell them, and I'm going to keep going either way. So,
Yeah.
and yeah, just staying true to yourself is a really good skill. It's difficult though.
That's something I want to work more on this year as well, as being the most authentic version of myself and finding out what that means as well. Because, you can experience life and be a certain type of person.
That's a big one to unpack, I would say, because then if we're going to get philosophical about it, then you go, okay, well then what is authenticity? What makes something of a given topic or behaviour or whatever authentic? What makes you an authentic person? And then I guess it's what you measure it against.
But I feel like that's always going to boil down to how you are truly feeling. I think that's what authenticity is are you saying what you actually want to say, or are you saying something just to be polite, or saying something that you think the other person would want to hear? And this is not necessarily a conscious thing. This is a lot of the time, I think this is more of a subconscious thing. But something that I want to do more this year is be more conscious of, okay, is this something that I would say? And I'm not saying that I know who I am necessarily, because we're constantly changing, but in this moment in time, with the kind of person that I feel like that I am, is this something that I would genuinely say, or is this something that I'm only saying either to just sort of postpone whatever thing is happening, just to sort of quicken the situation?
And you could also, and I was thinking of getting a tattoo of this. I've thought about it for quite some time, but I haven't gone for it yet. But it's a rule I try and live by, and to ask yourself, are you in one of two minds? Either the experiencing self, which chooses what you want here and now, or you in the remembering self, yourself looking back, which is foresight, I guess. But you're viewing it from the eyes of hindsight, because the amount of times we go through things, we go, oh, I wish I would have said whatever, I wish I would have spoken up, or whatever. But if you can train that muscle to be like, what is something that the best version of me would say, and I would be like, fair enough. If you can channel that, the best version of yourself, and that best version will be lots of parts of little people that inspire you, you know. And sometimes I'm in the mind of, if my granddad were here, what would he have done? Because he was a good thinker and smart and spoke well, and just, you know. Or you might channel whoever. I might channel you and go, what if I'm really stuck or something? What would Alex do in this situation? What would the best version of myself do? Would I maybe act out or be angry back at someone when I feel angry, or do I stay calm and respect myself?
So as we are wrapping up here, it's important to, later in the year, or even the month after recording one of these videos, to reflect on the goals that we set out, and whether we achieve those. I think we've talked about some really good points, something that is very close to our hearts, and we've been the most authentic versions of ourselves. which is a scary thing to do, but here we are. We're living it, we're doing it, and it is important that we check in and keep ourselves accountable. So we will be recording these accountability sessions, if you will, once a month, and just checking in with each other and seeing how we're doing. So with that in mind, I'd like to thank you for being here with me and talking about what you want to do and sharing your thoughts and feelings.
You too. How lucky are we? We get to capture a moment in time of our development and see how we go. Yes, it's a nice little experiment, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
But more than that, it's taking control of your life. And the only thing we really can control is thoughts and actions, and anything that falls outside of that is really none of our business. And so to worry about that is kind of futile. Easier said than done.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think the whole thing of accountability is really important, because you don't want to disappoint someone else, and you also don't want to disappoint future you. And to have us acting in, like I said, that remembering self kind of state and saying, what could I have done to be in that place if only I'd been disciplined or whatever enough to do it.
Or I wish I had done this. I wish
I would have. Yeah, dude, that kills me.
There's always the story of being on your deathbed and having regrets and be like, oh, I wish I'd done that. You know, it's a cliche thing, but it exists for a reason, because people go through this. This is a real life experience, which is quite frightening to think of. So maybe you should just be more afraid of being on your deathbed and being like, oh, I wish I'd done this, than fearing everything else in your life.
Oh, he's a chirpy fucker, isn't he? Just picture yourself on your deathbed, guys.
Yeah.
Problem solved. Anxiety. Don't worry about it.
Just draw a picture of yourself
That's
on
it.
your deathbed and just hang it above your bed.
Exactly, with like cross for eyes.
Just dead.